Hi everyone, welcome back to my 20-year film festival. I am basically recommending one movie for each night of a 14-week film festival related to a particular year that's come within between 1995 and now. And I'm on to 2002, having just recently finished with 2001. The first movie I'd like to talk about is a Steven Spielberg film called Minority Report. It was a summer release based on a Philip K. Dick short story, or I guess it was a short book. I can't remember exactly. I tried reading it. I didn't really get through the whole thing. Anyway, because it wasn't an action thriller like the movie was, I guess that bored me somewhat. Anyway, Tom Cruise, of course, the main character. He plays Paul Anderton, or is it Tom Anderton? Yeah, he's basically a futuristic cop in Washington, D.C., who is reliant on these precognitors, three people that have visions of futuristic crimes, and then he takes his crack team out in Washington, D.C. to stop the crimes before they happen. Most of them are due to happen in just a few minutes, so he's got to get there really quick. He uses his little flying futuristic vehicles to get there. But then, of course, he discovers that the next suspect he has to arrest is actually himself, because the psychics get a vision of him committing a murder in a few days' time, and he's got to run from his fellow cops, his fellow pre-cops, as they say. They're called the pre-crime division, and discover who this guy is that he's supposed to kill, who he doesn't know, and why, and how he can avoid, being locked up. Fun movie, really exciting movie. There is one sort of big logical continuity error involving the bad guy in the film, who I won't get into. But aside from that, it's a really fun movie and just exciting overall. Good action thriller from Mr. Spielberg. The next movie I'd like to talk about is Kissing Jessica Stein. This was directed by Charles Herman Wormfeld, and if you're interested in what else he's done, it was the Legally Blonde sequel, which I don't recommend. This one's pretty good, though. The main character is married to John Hamm, I believe. Gosh, I wish I could remember her name. Sorry, I'm blanking on that. I'm blanking on most of the names of the actors in this movie. But anyway, she's a woman who meets, she works for basically a periodical in New York, and she meets a woman who's done with men and wants to find a woman to get together with, and something about her intrigues her, so they embark on a relationship, which she's very reluctant about and sort of antsy about, but eventually she sort of comes around and they end up having a good relationship for a while. But of course she's got to deal with her ex, who is also her boss at the paper that she works, and she's sort of trying to keep this away from everyone because she isn't sure how they'll react. Her friends, her colleagues, her parents, people like that. It's all sort of something that she's a bit skittish about. But it's a really good movie, good comedy. Sorry, I can't remember the names of the actors. I really ought to be able to remember the name of the main actress, but I just can't off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure she's married to John Hamm, though. Sorry about that airplane. I hope you can hear me. Then we have a movie that made me kind of nostalgic for the political thrillers of the 90s, military thrillers of the 90s, because it's a Jack Ryan movie. It's called The Sum of All Fears, and it stars Ben Affleck as Jack Ryan, who is first played by Alec Baldwin, then in a couple movies played by Harrison Ford, and recently Chris Pine played Jack Ryan, although that movie isn't based on any of the Tom Clancy books and didn't look that good anyway, so I'd probably ignore that. However, don't cry for the director Kenneth Branagh, because he had a big hit with Cinderella, which just came out recently. It was a hit. Yeah, so The Sum of All Fears has the early young Jack Ryan, basically. It's a novel that takes place before the other ones that had already been made into movies, so it's sort of like a Jack Ryan prequel. And they would have made more Jack Ryan movies with Ben Affleck, I'm sure, if it had been a hit, but it was kind of overshadowed by The Bourne Identity, which came out that same summer and had Ben Affleck's buddy Matt Damon become a huge action star because of it. I would suggest that movie as well, because it's a good movie, but everyone's seen that one. Whereas I don't think The Sum of All Fears gets the kind of love that it deserves. It was directed by Phil Alden Robinson, who has only made a few movies. He is more of a screenwriter by trade, but he did direct Field of Dreams, and he directed the 1992 tech thriller Sneakers, with Robert Redford and Sidney Poitier, which I liked quite a bit. And he directs this movie very well as well. He's got a very, very graceful touch when it comes to directing. And I wish that he'd direct more movies, because he's really good at it. I really like The Sum of Fears a lot. Sum of All Fears a lot. And not only do you have people like James Cromwell as the U.S. President, and Philip Baker Hall, and Morgan Freeman, of course, but this was the movie that introduced me to the actor Syrian Hinz, who plays the new Russian president, and he is awesome. He is such a cool guy. His very first scene in the movie is when he meets the Morgan Freeman and Ben Affleck characters, and he just charms everybody. He's so cool. You know, I really like him a lot. I think he's gone on to be in movies like Munich. He's been in a lot of films, but yeah, he's terrific in the movie. So I would suggest seeing it just for him, because he's great. The next movie I'd like to talk about is Roger Dodger, which was directed by Dylan Kidd. He went on to do a Laura Linney film called P.S. Roger Dodger stars Campbell Scott as the main character. He is, I believe, is an advertising executive. I'm not sure exactly. Or maybe it's a publisher. But he is a bit of a ladies' man, or at least sort of a suave sort of guy who likes to seduce women. And one day he gets a visit from his nephew, played by Jesse Eisenberg, and decides to take him out on the town and show him the ropes of what it's like, how you catch women, how you basically convince a woman who you just met at a bar to go home with you and sleep with you. They go out on the town. They go to a few different bars. They run into a couple of women played by Jennifer Beals and Elizabeth Berkley, and he is Campbell Scott's character is not a very nice guy, and I get the sense that he's pretty miserable with his life choices, you know. But Campbell Scott's a terrific actor, one of my favorite character actors. He's really good in this movie. It's been ages since I've seen it, but I have very fond memories of it. It's a good little indie movie. Next, I'd like to talk about the film. That won Best Picture that year, Chicago, one of my favorite musicals. Extremely lively and lots of dark humor. Really good film. I recently rewatched Nine, which is another musical that Rob Marshall directed, and also Into the Woods. He directed that as well. Nine really isn't that good of a movie. I enjoyed it the first time I saw it, but upon this more recent viewing, I decided it isn't all that great, and it doesn't really have very much good music, at least none that I liked. Chicago has great songs in it, though. Richard Gere, Renee Zellweger, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Queen Latifah, they're all really good in the movie. It's extremely fun, has a great series of numbers in it. It's a winner. And whether or not it deserved Best Picture or not, I don't know about that. I mean, I picked a different Best Picture, but it's well worth it. Well worth looking at, especially if you like musicals. David Fincher, of course, had a big hit that year in 2002 with Panic Room, starring Jodie Foster. Originally, Jodie Foster was supposed to play Michael Douglas's sibling in The Game, but she had to drop out, so Sean Penn took her place, and she ended up replacing Nicole Kidman in Panic Room when Nicole Kidman had to drop out because she had some sort of injury after being in Moulin Rouge. But it worked out very nicely. She's a single mom, recently divorced. Her daughter, of course, is a young Kristen Stewart. They move into a new brownstone in New York, and the very first night they're staying there, they are beset upon by three home invaders, Dwight Yoakam, Jared Leto, and Forrest Whitaker, who want to get into a safe which contains bearer bonds that are worth millions of dollars. Unfortunately, the safe is located in the Panic Room, which is this incredibly thick steel room, basically, that people hide inside during a home invasion before the cops get there. So they can't get them out. They have to figure out a way to convince Jodie Foster to open the door from the inside, because there's no way they can break in on their own. Good psychological thriller. And not my favorite Fincher movie, pretty conventional by his standards, but I'm glad he made it and glad it was a hit, because he ended up getting some box office viability back after Fight Club, which was a bit of a flop when it came out. Luckily, it became a cult hit. And finally, I'd like to talk about Blue Car. Blue Car is another independent movie. It stars David Strathairn as a high school teacher and Agnes Bruckner as one of his students. She's basically learning how to write poetry. And he encourages her off hours, and he encourages her to basically enter her work into competitions. As it turns out, he might have an ulterior motive. He might want to seduce her. She's in a particularly vulnerable spot because of her home situation. I love David Strathairn. He's a terrific actor. I like him in almost everything he does, except for The Bourne Ultimatum. But that was a terrible movie that no one could help being bad in. Anyway, the director of this, Karen Moncrief, was one I mentioned a couple of videos ago. She was the person who rewrote Kate and Leopold that got her the green light, and this is a movie that she wrote and directed. And got to meet her and go to a special screening of the film, which was great. It's a terrific movie. Would highly recommend it. So that is my first set of movies for 2002. I'll be back in the next video with another 7, completing a nice 2 weeks of 2002 movies, and I hope you'll tune in for that. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch and commenting, and if you like, check the description below for the links to my Facebook page and the playlist where you can find all the videos that I've been making for this series. Thanks again. I'll see you again real soon. Bye.